What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JBsports back again with another one. Former IBF and former WBC welterweight champion Shawn Showtime Porter has been prominently linked to a potential matchup with WBO champion Terrence Bud Crawford. Porter is currently ranked number 1 in the WBO. In several interviews, he has said that he's on the hunt for the matchup with Terrence Bud Crawford. That's the fight he's looking for. That's the fight that makes the most sense. That's the fight he thinks would be a fan-friendly fight, and he wants to make that fight happen next. But I asked Shawn Porter one question. Why haven't you enforced your mandatory? You know, it's one thing to do interviews and say, yeah, I want to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. You know, I fought Errol Spence Jr. I fought Keith one-time Thurman. I fought Danny Garcia. When I fight Terrence Crawford, that'll complete the puzzle of the welterweight era that I've been involved in. That's the fight that makes the most sense. I want to see how my style clashes with Terrence Bud Crawford's style. I think that'll be an exciting fight. You know, they just have to show me the money, basically. Show me the money, and if you pay me what I think I'm worth, I'll take the fight. But before you talk about the money, you've got to take that step as far as enforcing your mandatory. Now, maybe he don't want to force the mandatory because the WBO mandatory split is a 75-25 split in favor of the champion. Maybe that's the reason why he don't want to do that. But, you know, when you're the mandatory and you see Terrence Bud Crawford is looking at, another fight, a potential more lucrative fight with Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, you need to do your part and you need to enforce the mandatory. Because let me tell you what that's going to do if you do that. If you enforce the mandatory, say Terrence Bud Crawford and Manny Pacquiao come to agreement and they fight in Abu Dhabi, that's the place they've been prominently linked as the location for that fight. You enforce the mandatory, you call the WBO president, you harass him basically, make call and say, look, I'm the number 1 in the WBO, not Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao relinquished his WBA welterweight title because he was trying to fight fights that were involved with fighters that wasn't ranked in the top 15 of the WBA. He was trying to fight guys that wasn't even involved in boxing. Conor McGregor, an MMA fighter who fought once in a fight with Floyd Mayweather Jr., and he was trying to get fights lined up with Ryan Garcia, who's not even a welterweight, who is a lightweight, not even a champion of lightweight at that. He's an interim WBC lightweight champion. And he's trying to get fights like that, so they stripped the Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. Now, somehow, I guess you'll probably rank Manny Pacquiao before the Terrence Bud Crawford fights. Say they do come to agreement, you'll rank him in the top 15 of the WBO. But I'm ranked number 1, and if that fight does take place, you need to mandate that the winner of that fight must start negotiation with me and come to agreement within 90 days, or the fight goes to purse bid. If the fight goes to purse bid and y'all can't come to agreement for whatever reason, the champion must vacate the belt. And guess what? You'll fight for the vacant WBO welterweight title. The highest available ranked contender, and you will fight for that belt. You could be easily fighting a Castillo Clayton for the WBO title. You beat Castillo Clayton, you're the WBO champion. Then you can start looking at a rematch with you and Errol Spence Jr., and that fight will be for Undisputed, not the fight that everybody been clamoring for Undisputed with Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Bud Crawford. You will be sitting in the catbird seat, and you will be fighting for Undisputed at 147 pounds. But first, you got to do your part. You got to enforce the mandatory. Why haven't you done that? Why haven't your father, Kenny Porter, who handles your affairs, been calling the WBA to enforce your mandatory? You're on all kind of interviews saying you want to fight, but you're not taking the step that you need to take for that fight to possibly take place. If he don't want to fight you, if he wants to move up after he beat Pacquiao, then you fight for the vacant belt. You win that belt, and then now you got more leverage when you come to the negotiating table versus Errol Spence Jr. You can say, look, we fought a very close fight. If it wasn't for the knockdown in the 11th round, maybe I get the decision. I lost a split decision anyway. Very close and competitive fight. I got a WBO title. You bring more to the table. Then you can fight Errol Spence Jr. in another pay-per-view, and then you have a chance to become Undisputed. That fight will be for Undisputed, and you will have a chance to be Ring Magazine champion at 147 pounds. Just think about that, Shawn Porter. Think about that, Kenny Porter, because kind of tired of people saying, man, Terrence Crawford need to fight Shawn Porter. Something about Shawn Porter's style that makes Terrence Crawford not want to go that way. Yeah, that could be true. I doubt it. Terrence Crawford don't duck no smoke. But the problem is Shawn Porter needs to take that step, enforce the mandatory, and then if he chooses not to fight you, then you fight for a vacant belt. You fight for a vacant belt, you win that, and then you're still looking at a lucrative fight with Errol Spence Jr. for undisputed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What you think about Shawn Porter, to this point, have not enforced the WBO mandatory, but constantly talking about fighting Terrence Crawford. What you think about that? You think he should enforce the mandatory, or you think with the 75-25 split being too low, that he should just try to negotiate without enforcing the mandatory, where he think he can get a better deal fighting Terrence Crawford with Bob Arum? He's a promoter, but Bob Arum has already said that he's willing to give him $1 million was the initial offer. I think he's said to be willing to maybe double that to $2 million. So that's what he's looking at, $2 million. Maybe you get back end money on the pay-per-view split. But if you don't want to accept that, then you go to purse bid. Go to purse bid, and then once you enforce the mandatory, y'all don't come to agreement in 90 days, you go to purse bid. Maybe a Triller or maybe a DAZN bid high on that fight, and that would up your purse. Instead of getting $2 million, maybe you get $3 million. I think George Camboso was getting $2+ million to fight Teofimo Lopez. So I would assume if Triller bids on that fight, that your purse would be at least $3 million, and then Terrence Crawford would get his $6 million plus, and then you can get a purse that you feel is justified for you to take this fight of this caliber. So let me know your thoughts about Shawn Porter, to this point, refusing to enforce the mandatory. Let me know your thoughts, and hit the like button if you like the content of this video, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. Holla.